This is a character design exercise in which I am improvising both the role of the interviewer and the role of the creature being interviewed. Characters with the most likes and views will be animated and made into a lo-fi album. What is your name? My name is Punxsutawnic. What kind of being are you? Like a centipede? I'm like a being who can go in the water and out of the water. I have a long tail, a big mouth. Do you have a humanoid form as well? Mm, yeah, I have legs. I have legs. They're up near my face. What kind of hands or feet do you have? Well, they're like hooks. They hold on to the trees. I like to go in the trees. I like to go in the water. I like to go back and forth between the two because there's all sorts of food to be found in both. I also like the environments of both, just textures of the seaweed and the textures of the bark are very different from my claws. And the bark helps me feel safe, strong, can dry out too, warmer. It's very warm in the trees. I tend to spend more time in the trees during the winter. And then during the summer, it's nice to find a home, a nice place to. It's almost like the seaweed is cuddling me and holding me. And what kind of face do you have? I have big black eyes. And I have a little nose. I kind of have a human face. I can bring my face into my shell. Do you have ears? Nope, no ears. Just holes. What do you like to eat? I like to eat acorns. I like to eat anything crunchy. I really like crunchy. I do eat some snails. And I do eat some crabs. Oh. And I do have the capacity to make fire. So cooking the crabs is quite a delight, especially at sunset when everything is tossed up. The sea has been tossed up by the activity of the day, but the sky is becoming heavier, sleepier, and thicker almost. Like in the night, the air is thick because you cannot see through it, and as it gets darker, the atmosphere gets grayer and grayer. More, what is it called? Insulated. And there's a certain cozy warmth amongst clammy rocks, the exposed seaweed, and having a little fire and cooking what I've caught for the day of that fire. It's very satisfying and safe feeling. In this dimension, in this realm, there is a lot more prehistoric beings. There's more solitude, there's less beings here. The beings are ancient. And I often see this very old creature who sometimes will eat other beings, carnivorous, but he's so long lived that it is not necessary, it's not on his mind all the time. He's sort of, I would say he's a troll. He is an aquatic troll. He's big and lumbering and armor plated. He has big shoulders, big upper body, and spindly legs, spindly arms. He has a T-shaped face with furrowed brow and distant, cold eyes. This being has a tendency towards anger, but it's a cold anger, a spite. He is wise of the world. He understands how things work, but his underlying feelings as a being are sort of apathetic. He feels a lot of heaviness, he feels a lot of cold, and he feels a lot of tension. This being doesn't have a lot of patience. He has a tendency to end whatever he dislikes, but he knows enough about the world to know that he should stay solitary in order to reduce his harm on the world. He is a wise being. Wise beings have foresight. They can understand how things will multiply into the future. And though he has a capacity to harm, he fully intends to reduce what he is capable of in order to have a more positive future. His name is Andok. Andok will not hurt me. He is just impatient. Who else would you like me to meet? But if I look around, in the distance there's a whale-like creature which I don't know much about. Sort of scares me. He lives so far away in the ocean that I do not really relate or understand that being. There's some bird-like beings that fly and are very colorful, mainly red, black, and white. These beings have human-like faces, big bulging eyes, and feathers. The feathers are a cape for the more humanoid being that lives inside the cape, and being has a skirt of leaves and a soft bark derived fabric, and can fly on wings that he's made out of sticks and bird wings. Yes, they take the wings from birds who have died, who have passed away, and they use them to fly. They have a strong connection to the birds. The birds are sort of like a horse to them. They honor it and also utilize it. Their world revolves around the birds. And I want to say that these birds are kind of whatever bird they can get a hold of. They're not going to be picky, but they tend to be finches, sparrows, cardinals, maybe bluebirds, blue jays, whatever has passed naturally. And they have masks that are made from the bird beak. And the big bulging eyes are also part of the mask. That is the bird's eyes. And they have these really sweet eyes, the actual being. Very endearing. Kind of like a Cupid doll, but more almond, bright. Their whole eye is black. All of it is an iris or pupil. And they live on the trees above the water bank, the sandy bank. And they have sort of this relationship to the environment similar to me, where they're getting a lot of resources from the water, but they're kind of more comfortable living up in the trees. And these are my friends. They sort of respect me as a being that isn't quite like them in constitution. They're very agile, and they're constantly sort of swinging, jumping, and running through the trees. They're very dynamic, and they're very active, and they're very happy. They have a lot of fear too, but they're just so happy. They have a lot more confidence that they can get away from predators because they work in a team. They're never paranoid. They feel like someone is always looking out for them. Their main food source is those little fish, little mackerel or little tiny minnows. That's what they hunt. And they look out from the trees and then they dive into the water. Well, can you tell me any more about yourself? What would you like to know? I want to know, what was your proudest moment? Something I made with these, I guess they were pixies. You'll call them pixies. They have all sorts of names like Debran and Galco and Zinbat. Yeah, we made something together. We made a boat. I would sort of mold and sculpt these pieces together, these pieces of wood, and um, I would help carve it, and they would help nail it all together, and yeah, we just used our skill sets to make this boat. Cool. It was interesting to work with them, and felt accomplished that. Well, in the end, we made it for the pixie people. I didn't have much use for it, but I was interested in helping. That was fun. How old are you? Oh, I'm like 120, and my lifespan is 300. Do beings there ever live to 500? Oh, just barely. Just barely. It's kind of the best we can hope for. Kind of like the difference between your 80 and your 100 years old. Do you have anything else you'd like to say? No. I am happy and content, and I am going to cook my dinner now.